Hey, beautiful twin flames, and welcome back to Tarot for You 444. I'm really guided to share this video today because I feel like many of you kind of need some, what am I going to call it? Realignment or justification, or perhaps just a feeling of home right now. And if you're not getting that with your twin flame at the moment, this can be kind of difficult or exhausting perhaps. And so what I want to do is tell you a beautiful, profound story. And in this story, there will be parts of understanding within you that will know that it's just for you. Okay, so this will have profound parts regarding twin flame journey, profound parts regarding the essence of you, profound parts of knowing that come from the soul. And it's also my wish that as I bring you this message, you feel a sense of connectedness to whoever it is you believe in, whether that's God or spirit or source energy or Buddha or Allah. And so I want us to start with our breath, and then I'm going to get right into the story. Okay, so I'm going to bring you this feeling of ease and peace, so that as you connect inwardly with yourself and with your soul, you can get the clarity you need from my message to you today. Okay, so all we're going to do is take 5 deep breaths. Imagine the air's going in from between your legs and coming out through the heart chakra. And after that, I'm going to tell you what it is you need to hear today. Okay, and I think you're kind of going to find it a little bit special. All right, so let's do the 5 deep breaths together, starting from now. Okay, in and out. In, out. In, out. In, out. In, out. One more for luck. In, out. Okay. Congratulations if you did that with me. You can pause the video and do that if you didn't, because that's how you connect into your soul. You can do it for longer than that. You can do it for 5 minutes, morning and light, not morning and night, not light. And you can connect into your belly really deeply, pushing it out through the heart chakra, letting go of anything that no longer serves you, including people, places and situations that you feel, perhaps you have a block inside of you. Okay, so without any further ado, hopefully you're feeling a little bit more relaxed. You can of course pause the video and grab a cuppa, get some water, get some fruit, vegetables, whatever you want to do, and welcome today. So the first thing I want to say is I was having a shower just recently, and where I put the soap bar, it's kind of slippery, and I finished with the soap, and so I reached up and put the soap in. It's kind of like if you can imagine, it's kind of like metal, and because of the angle of the soap and because of where it was sitting, it slid back and fell back into the shower alcove. And so I bent down to pick it up, and then I put it back again, And this happened about 4 times. And I began to kind of giggle because I sort of saw it like a metaphor for, you know, that thing inside of us that we keep ignoring, whether that's something intuitive or something that we kind of want to do and we kind of put it on the back burner because, you know, we feel perhaps a little bit non-motivated or lazy. And this piece of soap just literally kept falling onto me and falling onto me and falling onto me. And in the end, I just kind of thought, well, maybe I ought to make a twin flame video about, you know, this kind of thing that keeps occurring for the twin flame journey. You know, it's like a cycle of this never-ending bar of soap that keeps hitting you. It didn't hit me in the head, but it would have been funny if it had have. You know, it's just like, there's that other story of, I don't know, someone will tell me in the comments section, but, you know, it's the guy that sits under the tree and the apple keeps falling on his head. And so he gets frustrated and he, I don't know, it's just like, I don't know, is it something to do with gravity? Like he worked out that gravity was a thing because this apple fell on his head, and I don't know, it's an old story about some guy sitting under a tree and the apple just kept hitting him, or it hit him once, and, you know, it's how he discovered that gravity was a real thing or something like that. Anyway, so don't quote me on that story, but it's kind of like the universe tries to put messages in front of us. You know, many times I've had emails from people, this is just an example, many times I get emails from people saying, you know, am I really a twin flame? You know, are you sure I'm a twin flame? You know, isn't this twin flame stuff all crazy? Are you sure I'm a twin flame? And I don't know, the fact that you're guided to my channel, you know, tells me a lot. It's kind of like that apple hitting you on the head, with the universe saying, you know, if you're following Nat's channel, you're probably a twin flame. How many apples do you want me to drop on your head? You know? Because originally when I did start out my channel, it was just going to be a regular tarot channel, sort of going to teach people how to do the tarot in a fun way, you know, do lots of love readings and star signs and all of that. And then, of course, the twin flame thing kind of happened, and, you know, the rest is history, although I'm still, you know, going to, you know, do other things as well. But this is, you know, kind of interesting, I think. So anyway, let me move on to the next part of the story. I was talking to a friend of mine who I've met, you know, on Facebook, online, you know, from another country. And they said to me one time, you know, we should meet up face to face and, you know, see each other, because we'd only seen each other's pictures before. And I said, oh yeah, okay, let's do that, and, you know, do like a video call or a Skype, you know. And anyway, we had talked, you know, to one another for, I don't know, perhaps 6 months, 6 or 8 months, I guess, before this idea came about that we were going to, you know, sort of put our cameras on and look at one another in the eye for the first time. And anyway, so we did. And the first thing that happened was, you know, we mirrored one another with smiling, because, you know, we'd sort of talked about lots of things and we knew each other quite well. We happened to be, you know, similar star signs and all of that thing. And, you know, we just got each other. And so I can remember my friend saying to me, wow, this is unbelievable. And I said something like, oh, what do you mean? You know, is my hair out of place, or, you know, have I got something on my face, or, you know, they kept staring at me. And anyway, my friend said, you really, really care about me. And I said, of course I do. What do you mean? And, my friend was just so taken with the fact that we had this, connection face to face, this understanding that, you know, at the end of the day, we're all human and we have this connectedness. And, you know, when you're online with someone, or when you're texting someone, or when you are, not in the same room as someone, even, you don't get that same, that same vibe, that same understanding of language that can come through when you really are talking with someone. And so many twin flames who don't get the opportunity to have this, togetherness, by way of communication, find that it's easier to leave the journey. So what can happen, this particular scenario is only a friend of mine, so it's not, it's not a twin flame thing, but it was just the difference in actually seeing each other, even if it was just by camera, compared to just texting. Because I guess you could say a lot can get lost in a text, and a lot can get lost in translation, with the language on text, as a difference from when you're actually talking to people. So if you do get the opportunity to, see your twin flame in person, or see, even a friend that you're talking to online or something, on camera or something. Maybe they in another country or something, which is the case for me and my friend. They're from another country. And so, it's really amazing when you connect with someone, in this way. So a lot of times if I do an audio recording like I'm doing now, and I'm only doing this because I can I can kind of think better sometimes when I'm telling a story, but many times I get emails saying, put yourself back on camera, we want to see you. And I guess it's because, there's that connectedness within us in human nature where we really want to just connect to that person. So on the twin flame journey, if you have an opportunity to see your twin flame in person, or if you're in different countries, to at least get on camera with them, it's going to make the world of difference, for communication purposes, because they'll be able to see, the language will come through better, and the translation of that language will come through better, and also, your body language will be there. Even if you're shy, it won't matter. I was originally shy when I first came on camera. I'm not now, because I kind of feel like when I do videos, I'm sort of talking to myself, and, I've got the gang sort of with me, Harry and Cookie and Donkey. But at first it can seem really, weird, just, you're kind of talking to yourself. That's what it feels like when you first start doing a YouTube channel. Anyway, so I found that really interesting and quite enlightening that my friend said to me, wow, you really care about me. Perhaps it was the tone in my voice, perhaps it was the way I was looking at them, or perhaps it was the way, my tone was when they told me about something that, kind of hurt them or something like that. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. I also wanted to talk about the dance that goes on within the twin flame journey, that really is the dance of you, of your soul. And I find this really interesting because this is the hardest part of the twin flame journey, is that we all have, our hang-ups, whether that be, it could be something like, I need to lose or gain weight, I need to get a better job, I need to move out of my mother's house, or my brother's fiance's sister's bedroom, or whatever it is, or I'm not chasing my dreams, or I've you know, I shouldn't have cut my hair last summer, or you know what I mean? There's all these things that we tell ourselves in our mind, that we think we could be better at. You know, for some people, it's a little more deep than that. It might be that they have an illness or a disease that they deal with each and every day that causes them pain or some kind of suffering. You know, for some people they might have, you know, chronic back pain, or, you know, some kind of chronic thing, like whether that might be anxiety or depression, PTSD, things like that. Okay. And so what happens then is the mind, you know, kind of comes in and goes, well, I'm not good enough because my hair's not long enough, or, you know, I can't do that gardening anymore because of the chronic back pain, or I can't, you know, complete that course, or I should have done better at school, or I'm dyslexic, or I'm this, or I'm that. You know, this is the story that people tell themselves, right? And I take all of those back. For whoever was agreeing with those, we take it back now. Okay, let's not put those things out into the universe. And so we all have these things. For some people, it's only little, it's only minor, it's only, you know, I need to change my wardrobe for this spring. You know, some people don't have huge issues, and some people do. And some people have a mixture. You know, some people think they're too shy, or too fat, or too ugly, or they've got a long nose, or they've got pimples, or they don't have enough, I don't know, volume in their buttocks, or just whatever it is, you know, whatever it is that we've told ourselves from either childhood, or from the way we were brought up, or maybe there was this bullying going on, or perhaps it's just this story that's been passed on from generation to generation, that for some reason we're not good enough. You know, maybe the fear mongering begins when you watch the news, or when you watch, you know, people on social media, and I don't know, maybe you were pro something and someone was against you, and you had this argument on social media, and you saw some bad stuff, or, you know, perhaps you've had things going on in your life where you've had to cope with things that were, you know, that felt like were too much for you to bear. And so I want to tell you today that I understand you from wherever you're coming from. So no matter what's happened to you, no matter what trauma you've been through, whether that's big or not, I want to tell you that it's made you who you are today. And that if you're not happy with who you are today, tomorrow is a brand new day, and we can start fresh in trying to get you to be who you want to be eventually. And also, I want to tell you that there really is nothing wrong with you at all. And basically, this is the human condition that we're all in together. Okay, this is where the connectedness begins. And so the journey of twin flames is really interesting, because usually what happens before you know that you're a twin flame is that you realize that you have this interconnectedness. You know, perhaps you stumbled across, I don't know, a cool YouTube channel like Tarot for You 444. I'm joking. Or some other platform where you realize that, you know, in some kind of way, we are all one, we are connected. And, you know, maybe you believe in, I don't know, some Eastern philosophies, maybe you are religious, maybe you're spiritual, you know, however you want to bring this about. But, you know, in some kind of way, you kind of woke up and realized that, you know, you don't really want to be a slave to the system anymore. You know, you kind of know that there's more to life than just working in a dead-end 9-to-5 job, let's say. And so what happens here in this realization is that you can have profound movement forward in a trajectory that can make you kind of go, OMG, before I #woke up, I was really dumb. I didn't get it. I didn't see the love. I didn't see the connectedness of everything, the wonderment of, human psychology, the amazingness of perhaps animals or nature, or all of those beautiful things that bring us closer to our source. And so within all of this awakening, for many twin flames, they get to this point where they realize that the only thing that they truly want out of this life is love. And that love is very similar to source love, or God's love, or Allah's love, or Buddha's love, or whoever it is you believe created us. And so you get to this place of knowing, and perhaps today you're not even at that place of knowing, and this might be waking you up in some kind of way, just that little bit more. And of course, when I say waking up, I'm talking about ascension. And so as you discover more and more that love is the only law, love is the only answer, love is what, brings people together, love is the way through this journey, you kind of realize that the need to shed ego and the need to kind of put that judgmental mind in the corner is really, 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 really important, because there's a connectedness in everything. Even Aunt Bessie at the Christmas party, who's normally a total bitch, the one I mean, that auntie that you have. Maybe you don't have her, but I certainly had an auntie that was wasn't my real auntie, but a woman that I called auntie, at a Christmas party, and she was something else. She was the total egotistical apparent life of the party, and it was quite funny because in my 20s, I know you all thought I was 21. I'm not anymore, but in my 20s, she was this woman that would say, "Oh, you're not wearing that, are you? Oh God, who did your hair? Let's fix it." One of those kind of women that, every self-esteem issue that you ever had, she would bring it up in one party, things like, "Oh my God, do you bite your nails? You can't do that. Good God, child, what's wrong with you?" That kind of thing. And so at the time, I kind of found it terrifying and confronting. And, when I wasn't around her, I could see the funny side in it. It was kind of like watching a comedy show that, you might see on TV. I can actually probably write a book about this woman. She was hilarious. And of course, everything that she was projecting onto me was, deflecting her own insecurities about, about who she was, and, all of her fears and insecurities she kind of pushed onto everyone else. And, she didn't just do it to me. It would be, I went to a wedding once, and she was there, and, she told different aged men, what they should be looking for in a wife. And, she danced with younger men, and she she had a ball. Of course, the whole time she was completely off her face drunk, which isn't really good for health. But it was quite a thing to see this woman, this train wreck of a woman, really pushing all of these agendas onto other people, because she was really crying out on the inside. So, in a way it's funny, and in a way it's not, because she really did have a lot of issues. And it wasn't until I began to understand, behavioral psychology and why people do the things that they do, that I understood what was going on with her. But, you know, for quite some time, I used to think that, you know, I had a really bad wardrobe, that my hair was terrible, that I needed to paint my nails and perhaps even, you know, learn how to dance a bit better or something. You know, I just thought there was all this shit wrong with me, because she would, you know, at one time in my life, I actually lived in her house, and boy, oh boy, was that an eye-opener. she would, you know, come at you at 2 a.m. and wake you up, and she would, you know, have stories to tell and things, and she was just such an interesting woman, and she really did have some problems. But I just wanted to tell you about her, because we all know that person in our lives, whether that's an ex-friend or a boss or a, you know, some kind of person that points out all your flaws. You know, it might even be you know, someone that you've been in a relationship with, you know, that points out all your flaws and makes you feel like crap. And hopefully you're not in that now, so that you can, you know, learn from it and move on and realize that, you know, your true love will love you for who you are, no matter, you know, if you have bad breath in the morning, or I don't know, it won't matter what color your hair is or what color your t-shirt is, you know, they're going to love you for who you are. So I thought I'd bring that up. The other thing I want to talk about today is that as we go through the twin flame journey, we feel this immediate connectedness to things. And as we ground ourselves and balance ourselves out, this feeling can be highly inspirational, it can be blissful, it can be joyful, it can be magical, it can be, you know, otherworldly, you know, especially if you can connect telepathically or energetically with your twin, you know, and also in the 3D, you know, in the 3D reality as well. If you can connect with your twin, it can feel like, wow, you know, amazing, with a capital A. And then, of course, I want to talk about the separation, because, you know, everyone goes, oh yeah, this bliss, this wonderment, this feeling of home and all of this stuff. And then, of course, the mind comes in and goes, hang on a minute, let's be that auntie who was, you know, kind of cray-cray. And of course, she wasn't my real auntie, but I called her auntie because I think she made me. At the time, I was very vulnerable, you know, I would kind of do what anyone said, which is funny, but that's also funny. But anyway, it's kind of like that auntie that creeps in and goes, oh, you can't go out with them. Your house isn't big enough to have that person come and live with you. What do you mean you're going to buy that car? You can't afford it. Or, you know, all of these doubts come in and creep in, or there's cellulite on your big toe or something, you know. Or you've got hair in all the wrong places, you know. Whatever it is going to creep into your twin flame journey. I guarantee it, hands down. You're going to have, let's call your mind that auntie that I was talking about. Even if she's not your real auntie, all right? So you might want to name your mind some kind of name that means auntie. You know, auntie, and then the worst name you can possibly think of. I'm not going to say any names because I don't want to offend anyone, but, you know, Auntie Cray Cray might be the one that I would call this. And so the mind comes in and goes, well, you can't have this journey. They're not going to be in love with you. And if they were in love with you, when they finally do come in and, you know, begin to live with you, perhaps they're going to hate how you, I don't know, you cut your toenails in the bathroom and you never pick those toenails up off the floor or something. I don't know. Maybe that's going a bit far, but you know what I mean. There's going to be all of this stuff that comes up for you. And of course, as all of this auntie mind talk comes in for you, you will be not realizing that you have come away from the love. Okay, energetically, you will be pushing your twin flame away and pushing yourself into this weird kind of corner where you start having doubts. You know, maybe you say, well, you know, my big toe is infected, and if they saw that, they'd be totally turned off. Let's take that back, not put it into the universe, but you know what I mean. So there's going to be all these excuses. I'm not good enough, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I can't cook, I can cook but really badly, I have a really weird coloured car, if I broke down in the middle of nowhere, I wouldn't know how to save myself, I don't know how to change the tyre, I don't know how to look after their children if they've got children, and on and on and on. All the excuses will come. Okay, Auntie Cray Cray, aka the mind, is coming in and telling you all of these things. You can't have it or them because ... and there'll be a million different excuses. And of course I take back that energy again so the universe doesn't hear it for any of you today. So what do we do? What do we do is we've got this separation going on, and there's this cycle of coming together and being apart, and coming together and being apart, and coming together and being apart. Or you came together originally and you're still apart, 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 and you're kind of going, shit, maybe I don't need to be on this journey anymore because I'm still apart. This is when the frustration can kick in. This is when, you know, giving up on the journey can kick in. This is when the, you know, the watching of the tarot readings, you know, over and over again to see if there's the same messages coming through, or if it resonates with you, or if it doesn't, or, you know, perhaps you feel like you're going kind of crazy. And of course you aren't, and your perception is simply your mind coming in this kind of interesting way that disallows love. It's funny, you know, I want to just go back to this auntie that I was talking about before, and she would I think she must have been a narcissist, but you know, she would come and hug me, and then she would like spill her champagne all over my clothes or something like that. Or she would kiss me on the cheek, and then she'd try and wipe her lipstick off of me but smudge it into my makeup or something. You know what I mean? It was just like this, hang on a minute, are you trying to sabotage me, woman? You know, I wasn't sure if she was just too off her face to know what she was doing, which means in Australia off your face means, you know, like drunk or whatever. But you know, she was always the life of the party, and everyone kind of cringed when she was there because they knew that something was going to happen. You know, they might get their ass grabbed or or I don't know, something would always happen. You know, there would be some kind of thing. And the thing I think the thing I loved about her most is that she would start the night looking pristine, you know, because most of the places, if I ever saw her, you know, it was like a social setting, and of course, you know, people drink and some people get messy, and she was one of those people that got messy. But you know, she would start out and she'd be wearing a beautiful sparkly dress, or you know, she'd look glowing, you know, she had really pretty eyes, gorgeous hair, you know, she'd have it blow dried and perfectly done, and her lipstick would be, you know, all in the lines. And by the end of the night, you know, it looked like someone kind of had stamped her makeup on, and you know, her dress or her stockings might be ripped, or I don't know, she'd break her high heels or something would go on, you know. And it was like seeing the shadow side of yourself. You know, it's kind of like the shadow side of yourself is this crazy auntie that kind of wants to sabotage everyone and everything. And this is, I think it's kind of a funny metaphor if you want to look at it like that. Because, you know, when we're balanced, right, you know, when you're balanced, you go out into nature, you do all the meditation, you look after your diet, you care about your health, getting enough sleep, you're doing all the right things, you know, in a spiritual sense. If you're religious, you might be praying. And then if you let your mind come in and become Auntie Cray Cray, then, you know, you kind of look like you've had a day at the races where you got really messy and you're kind of not sure who you spoke to or who you did what with, right? So this this is kind of how we can sabotage ourselves on the twin flame journey. And also our twin will do this too. So, you know, remember that bliss that you first came into with your twin. Everything seemed magical. Everything seemed wonderful. And depending on whether you're a divine masculine or a divine feminine, you might have turned into Aunt Cray Cray when the mind and the ego come in. Or they may have turned into Uncle Cray Cray, depending on gender and whether you're a divine masculine or feminine, or, you know, how you define yourself. So this is something to really think about. When we're off balance, the mind's going to come in and tell us all of these excuses. They're not calling me because, they're not interested because, or maybe they are really interested and you're running away from them. Okay, so that can happen too. Some twin flames get to the point where, this is interesting, you know, they do all the, like some of the twin flames who have done my Ascension package, in the beginning when I first brought it out, I had a few twin flames do the Ascension package, or the twin flame package, and by the end of it they kind of went, oh, I don't think I need my twin flame. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, like, I'm completely detached now, or I'm completely okay now. I don't feel needy anymore. I don't feel, you know, what all the feelings that they had. And so they literally decided to move on with, I think, you know, obviously I can't give out personal information, but one woman, she did move on with a soulmate. She decided to choose the soulmate, and the other woman decided to, for now, let her twin flame go and just focus on herself. So I found that really interesting. So when you come to this place of clarity, aka getting out of that mind space, getting out of that drunkenness that the mind can bring on, or that negative space, that judgmental space, you actually can have clarity. And it's only years later now that I look at Auntie Cray Cray, who would not probably be alive now. I don't see her anymore, but I don't think she would be alive anymore. If she is, she would be really, you know, like quite old. But I can look at that now and see it for what it was. But at the time when I was in it, it felt like a dark night of the soul. Like, you know, imagine standing there and she's your ride. Like, just come with me on this little mini ride for a minute. You've decided, you know, that you're going to go somewhere with her. Actually, I think I was driving because she drank, I drove. But, you know, you're stuck with her for the whole night. And so, because she's really pushy, you know, you can't go home. And of course, I've never been in my life, you know, I abstain from alcohol. So, you know, to watch other people drink and get high or whatever they do has always been something that, you know, I watched other people do, never myself. And so, you know, if she wanted to be there until 3 a.m, I had to somehow stay awake until then and take her home, make sure she was okay, you know what I mean? So I find this really interesting that, you know, it's only now that I'm older that I have the clarity of being able to see what was really going on with her, and to know that, you know, her behavior was due to all of this lack inside of herself, and that she projected all of this other stuff onto me and many other people because of, of she didn't want to go within and work out herself. Not that anything is truly wrong with anyone, but we all do have fears and belief systems that may need a little bit of tweaking or a little bit of alignment. So now I can kind of laugh about it and see how naive I was back in the day. But I want you to understand that sometimes your twin flame or you are projecting. Okay, so this idea of projection is, perhaps your twin flame may say, I don't want to talk to you, or I can't talk to you until next week, or they don't come in at all. And it's actually got a lot to do with what's going on inside of them. Okay, and there's a way that you can make them come to you, which is, in my manifesting course, which I would always say needs to be done after the Ascension package, aka Twin Flame package. So interestingly, we have the mind and the ego here to remind us that, we are kind of trapped in this human body. We are kind of trapped in this experience of belittling ourselves. Perhaps we've done it to others. Maybe that was only in school or something like that. But, this projection that occurs within humans is, behavioral psychology, where, as you project or get angry at someone else or push someone away, really that's showing you the fear that lies within you. Or it can happen the other way around, where, they're pushing you away or they're saying something to you, because of what's going on inside of them. And sometimes the hardest thing to do is to take a really good hot look at yourself and go, wow, some of the behaviors I have aren't really serving me. Some of the people, places and situations that I'm hanging around with or are being within are not really serving me. And it's difficult to do this, but it's possible, and it's also really enlightening, and it is part of Ascension. And so I've heard other people saying, who are in the twin flame community, that, you don't need to heal your inner child wounds, and you don't need to, what else do they say? I'm trying to think of, some of the things that are said. You don't need to heal your inner child wounds. You don't need to, acknowledge what the other person's doing, and you don't need to do all of this stuff and all of this healing kind of stuff and, work and all of this. And I would say that in a sense that's true, but if we don't take a look within ourselves and work out who we really are, which is part of Ascension, then we can kind of either project things onto ourselves or others that we don't mean to be doing, or we can energetically be sending the wrong message to someone. Let's go back to my friend who I, Skyped with, and they said, wow, you really care about me. At that point in my life, I was really caring, had really, had some breakthroughs spiritually, was feeling great, was eating well, was doing all of that stuff. And I think had it been different, had I been filling myself full of shit food and not exercising or not thinking in a more positive way, that kind of statement from them would have been different, or they wouldn't have said that to me. And so as we come into knowing who we are, we also need to discover the shadow aspect of ourself. And we all have it. We all have that part of us that's fearful, or should I even say it, ingenuine sometimes, you know, especially if we're tired or hungry, we can act in a completely different way to when we are not. But, you know, understanding what triggers us, that's a really important point here. If you know what triggers you, you can actually understand what needs to change or what needs to go. So if you know that if you stay up past midnight, you're going to be really crabby the next day at work, then that's a really great thing that you know, because you can stop that from happening. You know what I mean? And just stay up late on the weekends, let's say. That's just one example. But other things might be, you know, you've got a habit that you want to kick. You know that it's not good for you. You've been, you know, that bar of soap keeps dropping on your head all the time, or that apple keeps dropping. The universe is trying to say to you, give it up already. Take care of yourself better, you know. This video today might be that push of motivation that you need to make yourself feel better in some kind of way, whether that's, you know, taking up some exercise regime or a hobby, or, you know, even just going out for coffee with friends and enjoying your social life a bit more. You know, maybe that's all you need today, was a little push, a little reminder of who you are. Because as we live in the 3D reality, we do have responsibilities, because unfortunately we are slaves to this whole, you know, societal expectations, you know, the whole money thing. You know, we need to make money to pay the bills, and we need to keep paying the bills because they keep coming, you know, etc. But what I'm telling you today is that regardless of your 3D situation, regardless of what responsibilities you have, you know, you can still remain in unconditional love, and your consciousness can come from a higher consciousness, you know, other than the third dimensional consciousness, where, you know, we we kind of go Auntie Cray Cray or Uncle Cray Cray, and where we judge ourselves and others, or be, you know, belligerent or mean to ourselves and others. We don't need to do that. We can push through with love. We have this journey back to the self, which is of love. And that doesn't mean that you need to hang around with people who no longer serve you. It actually means that you are coming into a place of defining who you are, and understanding that the most important aspect of your life is love. And when you do this, you'll come to realize that anything that isn't loving, anything that isn't nurturing, anything that doesn't feel great, will kind of fall away. You know, that mean friend that used to text you may not text you anymore when you come into knowing who you really are. Okay, when you come into knowing who you really are, and who you want to be in this life, because you would have seen things that you don't like, aka Auntie Cray Cray, right? You'll be able to look at your life and realize that, okay, I like that, I don't like that, I like that, I don't like that. And this is when the shedding away can bring you into a more simple way of living. You know, the last thing I want to say, because I've been ranting and raving for nearly an hour now, which is something I'm really good at doing, but I want to bring up my curtains. You know, when you watch my videos, if you've seen my videos before, I've got really crappy curtains in the background. And I used to kind of make a joke of them when I first started my channel, you know, to say that they're a metaphor, that everything doesn't need to be perfect. You know, in the imperfection is perfection. And so it's funny, someone bought me some curtain material to, you know, fix up my curtains. You know, like They literally said, I noticed you've got really crappy curtains. Here's some nice curtain material. And I've kind of got it like sitting in the corner of the room. And I've been umming and ahhing about it for ages. You know, and of course it doesn't really matter. It's only just looks, you know. It's kind of like how some people fall in love with the look of someone and not the soul of someone, you know what I mean? And then I remembered that I'm not sure if this woman still watches my channel. And if you do, I'm saying hi to you today because I'd love if you could comment, you know, if you're still here, or maybe send me an email or something. But she said to me, and I only just maybe made, I don't know, 5 videos on my channel or something like that. But she said to me, oh, please don't change your curtains because they remind me of when I go to a family member's house and it makes me feel like I'm home. And so I've kind of haven't had the heart to change them because I often think about what that woman said to me, and I think it's really beautiful. And it's how your twin flame feels when they talked with you, is like, you know, your home. So, you know, even if you're wearing that crappy t-shirt and you've got oily hair because, you know, it wasn't hair washing day, or, you know, there's no makeup, or you've got a pimple or a cold sore, or, you know, you've got chubby legs, or, I don't know, a skinny little finger, or whatever it is, all of those things are your twin flame's home. So it's the imperfection that makes you perfect to them. You know, every one of us is unique and different in some kind of way. You know, some of us have a big butt, some of us have small toes, some of us are tall, some of us are short, some of us are fat, thin, middle, you know. I just want to tell you one last quick story which you might find funny and relatable. I had beautiful long hair in primary school, and it was really long, you know, almost down to my bum or my bottom. I don't know, everyone says bum differently depending on what country, but my ass, right, it was nearly touching my ass. And Donkey's laughing because he says, I'm a donkey, not an ass. Anyway, some of you will find that funny if you know what I mean. It's a play on words. But I can remember my mum said to me, we're going to the hairdresser because your hair needs cutting, and it was getting too long and my fringe was too long and all of that stuff. And I can remember I was, I don't know, about maybe between 8 and 12. I can't really remember, but the hairdresser had all these cool books, you know, and she said, you can literally open any page of this book or books. You know, she had another client with her, and she said, open any of the pages and pick what you want. And there was this really funky, cute looking chick, and she had this, I don't know, it was like a spiky kind of hair, but it was all gelled up, you know. It was really, really cool, and she looked amazing. And of course I don't know, I think she had a leather jacket on or some, you know, she was in this cool pose, this model. And I said, wow, I want to look like that. You know, being a kid and having imagination, you know. And my mum looked at me and she said, because she called me Tasha, right? So that was my nickname. But she said, Tasha, you do know that, you know, all of your beautiful long hair will be cut off and it'll be really short, you know, because it was literally like, I don't know if you know centimeters or inches, but I'm kind of more, in Australia we work with centimeters. So if I say 10 centimeters, it was like a 10 centimeter spike all over, and then the back was just kind of down and around the neck short. And so you can see that my mum was kind of encouraging to me, but also, you know, and supportive, but also kind of saying, you know, your hair will be gone, you know. And of course, you know, being a kid and knowing exactly what I needed and wanted, I said, no, this is what I'm getting. This is amazing. And, and the hairdresser said, oh yeah, we've even got this cool gel that you can gel your hair with, and then, you can get some hairspray, and, it'll take a little bit of work every morning. And I'm like, oh, that's fine, I don't mind, you know. And so she did it. She did the deed, and she cut my hair. My mum was sitting there holding her breath the whole time, smiling fakely at me, wishing that I could have a better brain. But she supported me, which is, I don't know if I want to slap her or love her more, but at the time she let me get what I wanted to get. And I sat there and watched the hairdresser do her thing and watched all my hair fall on the floor. And, I kept some of it in a bag, or, they say, oh, do you want to take some with you or whatever? And I did that. And anyway, she styled it really cool, and I thought I looked like the sexiest thing since sliced bread. And I went to school. I think I got it done on a Friday, so I had the weekend to kind of get used to the gel and the hairspray and stuff. And when I went to school, I was the talk of the school, at least in my classroom anyway. And wow, it was the worst decision I ever made. Let's just put it that way. And of course, that particular week we had school photos, and I still have that photo of this spiky hairdo, which, I don't know, maybe one day I'll post it to embarrass myself or show you on here, but I think I've hidden it somewhere so I don't come across it by accident, But wow, what a decision. What a decision. But you know what? At the time, I have to give myself credit because I knew what I wanted, And my mum, may she rest in peace, in heaven, is probably still laughing about it now, but they were the most shocking photos. And I think I even went to see Santa that year, Santa, or Father Christmas, we call him in Australia Father Christmas. And yeah, pretty embarrassing, funny story. But sometimes, when you think you know what you want, it's good to take a little pause. And I think had I been a little bit more knowing who I was and knowing how other people are, because, other people can be, especially kids, can be cruel to other kids, I didn't realize, I just kind of wanted to look like that cool model in the picture. And she did look really cool, but going to school with that was really difficult. And so I think that sometimes as adults we do things because of societal expectations, but secretly at the time, even though some people teased me about it and some people looked at me kind of funny or whatever, I still kind of felt inside of myself that it was the right thing to do, because it just felt right for me at the time. And I don't know, maybe the shedding of hair or the shedding of my old self into the new was a profound reminder of who I was going to become later in my life. Because I have shed a lot of things that I thought I was and now know that I'm not. So I hope this story finds you well today. I want to soon, for Christmas, I'm going to be giving away some Ascension packages for Christmas. So keep those donations coming. I'll put the link in the description box. The more donations I get, the more Ascension packages I'll be giving away. So, even if it's just a few dollars, or it can be whatever you want to do, just know that it will be going towards helping some people, as well as my other charity work that I like to do. I really am appreciative of all your donations, and if you need to get in contact with me, I would love to hear from you. And if you've got any ideas about what you need to hear on the channel, I know everyone kind of was interested in the whole star sign thing, which I'm going to be adding. But, let me know what you want to do, because ultimately this channel is for you. You know, what do you need on your journey? You know, do you love a certain particular type of reading more than another? You know, like I do Secrets of Divine Masculine, or Divine Masculine Love Letter, or Twin Flame Advice. You know, I've got Cheesy Dating Tarot. I've got the Tea Leaf Tarot. What else have I got? Wow, I've got the Men and Women series. If you go into my playlist, you'll see all the series and different things that I do. Remember, all of my readings are timeless, and so if you're guided to click onto any of them, they will be, you know, hopefully there'll be something in the reading for you at the right time. All right. I always believe that the universe will bring you the message that you need to hear at the right time. So I'm going to say sayonara and, you know, ciao for now. And if you want to say hi in the comments, do that. Let me know what else you want to see on my channel. You know, let me know how this resonated for you. You know, get into the comments section, light it up a little bit. You can share, you can like, you can subscribe, send a donation. Let me know if you're interested in winning the Ascension package, because between now and Christmas time, I'll be giving away as many of those as I can, depending on how many donations I get. And I'm sending you many blessings and so much love this day. And I hope that you found this story time kind of interesting. I think I'm going to put it in Twin Flame concept videos. If you ever want to come back to this, you know that it's there. All right. So I'm going to call this a Twin Flame concept video. And that's what playlist it'll be in. All right. So have a beautiful day, night, afternoon, evening, or morning, wherever you are in the world. And just know that you are loved, and that you are loved very much. And no matter what you think is wrong with you, it's all perfect. All of your imperfections are perfect. And you are exactly where you need to be right now. But if you're struggling, you can reach out to me. And if you need me, or any of my services, please feel free to reach out to me, because that's why this channel was born. Okay? I love you all so much. Thank you for being here. Donkey says hi. Harry and Charlotte say hi. And Cookie is sending kisses. Ready? Mwah, mwah, mwah. There he goes. He's got batteries again. Don't we love that? All right. See you, everyone. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Bye. Bye.